breaking news tonight comes from the highest levels of defense. A senior US official warned just hours ago that Venezuela is now pushing closer to a red line than ever before. At 3:41 a.m., that warning turned into a real crisis. I'm standing by as reports confirm that 12 low-flying drones came in fast over the dark water, only about 10 feet above the surface, heading straight for Flying Bravo, a secret US logistics platform south of Yemen. The first alert sounded just seconds before impact. Flames rose into the sky as the fuel line exploded. A second drone hit the uplink tower. A third tore into the refuel bay used to support long-range B-21 missions. Screens inside the control room went black one after another. Instead of pulling back, the drones kept coming. They flew tight, like they were trained for this exact run. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't a mistake. It was a direct signal aimed at the United States. And Venezuela had no idea what kind of answer they were about to trigger. If you want to follow this moment as it unfolds, press 1 for the US or 9 for Venezuela and subscribe for updates. Flying Bravo may look like a simple offshore platform, but to American forces across the region, it is much more than that. It is a hidden lifeline that keeps missions moving from the Red Sea to the Persian Gulf. Every month it pushes out hundreds of thousands of gallons of jet fuel for long-range flights. Every hour it sends targeting updates to drones operating over conflict zones. And every day it holds the data link that keeps 3 carrier groups working together as one. When the Venezuelan drones hit, they did not just damage a metal structure. They forced a key part of the US military network to shut down in seconds. What burned in that blast was the fast refuel chamber that helped B-21 bombers stay airborne longer without returning to base. What went dark was a stream of thousands of signals used to guide drones, track hostile ships, and keep pilots aware of threats before they appeared on radar. And what shook the Pentagon most was the storage room that held prototype neural chips. These chips were meant for next-generation autonomous systems, and if even one survived the explosion and fell into the wrong hands, it could expose how the US builds its most advanced weapons. Crews at Flying Bravo said the strike pattern looked planned, not random. The drones came in low, at the right angle, hitting the exact spots that could shut down operations fastest. That means someone studied the platform and understood what mattered most. This was not a message written in words, it was a message written in fire. And for Washington, it raised a simple question. If Venezuela was willing to strike this deep at an American logistics nerve, what would they try next? At 4:13 a.m., only minutes after the fire at Flying Bravo lit the sky, the Pentagon pushed a Tier 1 response order. Inside the USS Ronald Reagan, the Combat Information Center shifted to red alert as new data rolled in. A petty officer tapped his screen and watched the platform icon turn gray. "They hit the nerve," he said quietly. A senior technician confirmed the signal path. The drones came from inside Venezuela, no doubt left. The air defense officer gave the command. Begin iron reprisal. 4 F-35Cs rolled onto the deck, engines shaking the carrier as they armed JASSMER missiles and launched one after another into the night. Across the ocean at Diego Garcia, 2 B-21 Raiders moved into position. Radio calls were short. One pilot said MOP armed, and both bombers lifted off, switching to silent flight. They would fly nearly the whole route without talking, trusting their encrypted guidance. 6 MQ-25 drones launched next, spreading out ahead of the strike as a moving shield. Their job was to confuse Venezuelan radar and take the first hits if missiles were fired. GhostNet active, the drone operator said as their icons fanned forward. Back at Flying Bravo, smoke filled the control room. A surviving operator sent one last packet of targeting data before the system failed for good. "That's all we have," he said as the lights went dark. On the destroyers USS Thomas Hudner and USS Gridley, crews armed 24 Tomahawk Block V missiles. Engines hummed as guidance warmed. "Fire," the commander ordered. Bright arcs rose into the air, then dropped low over the waves as they sped toward Venezuela. Everyone watching the map understood the same thing. The US was not waiting for a second strike. The response had already begun. If you think the US should hit even harder, press 1. If you believe Venezuela will push back instead of backing down, press 9. By 5:40 a.m., the US strike package was locked on course toward northern Venezuela. High above the clouds, the two B-21 Raiders flew in near total silence, holding a clean path through the radar gaps. Their screens showed no locks, no sweeps, nothing that suggested the enemy had spotted them. From the cockpit, the faint line of the coastline slowly shaped itself below as they moved toward the underground base known as Secreta 9. Far lower in the sky, the F-35Cs pushed through rough air at high speed. One pilot saw a burst of static spread across his display. "Jammer spike," he said, but the system cleaned the image before it became a threat. "Stay tight," the lead pilot reminded the group. "They're trying to blind us." The formation held steady, using the terrain to hide their approach. Down near the ocean surface, Tomahawk missiles skimmed just feet above the waves. They moved too low and too fast for most Venezuelan radar to catch. Their path was designed to split the defense network, forcing it to watch the water and the sky at the same time. The more angles the enemy had to cover, the weaker their reaction would be. Ahead of everything, the MQ-25 drones were already taking hits. On the USS Ronald Reagan, an operator watched a Venezuelan SAM battery go active. A missile launched upward, then another, then several more. All chased the stingrays. One drone icon vanished. "Ghost 3 down," the operator reported. The drone had taken a shot meant for a manned aircraft. Inside the B-21 seconds, the mood stayed tense but controlled. Both pilots expected to see a threat warning at any moment. Yet the screens remained calm. The bombers were now deep inside Venezuelan airspace and still unseen. They followed their preset path toward a site many analysts once believed could survive almost anything. Secreta 9 was buried beneath layers of rock and reinforced concrete, built to withstand heavy strikes. But the B-21 seconds carried MOPs, weapons built exactly for targets like this. At 6:02 a.m., the final signal arrived. Drop authorized. The bay doors opened as the bombers shifted slightly to line up the perfect angle. Everything that happened next would decide whether the mission ended cleanly or exploded into a wider fight. For the crews watching from across the strike group, this was the moment the entire operation had been building toward. The escalation had reached its breaking point. The impact was seconds away. Just seconds before the B-21 seconds released their weapons, a strange echo appeared on the long-range sensors. It wasn't a jet or radar sweep. It drifted across the valley in a way that didn't match anything real. "Decoy field, maybe," one pilot said. Venezuela had set up reflective towers to bend radar returns and make Secreta 9 appear miles from its true location. If the bombers followed the false signal, the strike would miss the bunker completely. But the United States had a second source. Analysts had traced the power signature used in the Flying Bravo drone attack, and that same heat pattern was sitting inside the real bunker. When the decoy shifted left, the heat map stayed still. The B-21 seconds trusted the heat, not the echo. They adjusted their heading by less than half a degree, just enough to point straight at the hidden entrance. The F-35 seconds saw it too. One pilot said, "Decoy, real sight south." But Venezuela had no idea the correction had been made. From the ground, it looked like their deception was working. Inside Secreta 9, soldiers felt a slight pressure drop, the kind that happens when something fast cuts through the air above. No alarm, no warning, just a low rumble in the concrete. They didn't know the MOPs were already seconds away, locked on the real coordinates. For the strike group watching from miles off, this was the moment everything hinged on. If the correction was right, the mission would break Venezuela's drone network. If it was wrong, the bombs would vanish into empty ground. As this moment hangs in the air, tell me where you stand. Press 1 if the US read the decoy perfectly. Press 9 if you think Venezuela almost turned the mission off target. The two MOPs dropped clean from the B-21 seconds, falling for several long seconds before reaching full speed. At more than 700 miles per hour, they sliced through the air with no sound on the ground below. Inside Secreta 9, lights shook. A low-pressure wave rolled through the tunnels. No one inside understood why the air suddenly felt heavier. Then, the bombs hit. Both penetrators punched through the surface like iron drills. They tore through concrete, rock, and steel supports as if the layers were nothing. 7 seconds later, a deep, crushing blast erupted underground. A thick column of dust and smoke shot upward, rising hundreds of feet into the sky. The shock wave rippled across the region, rattling windows miles away. Even the B-21 crews felt the bump travel through the air. Inside the bunker, everything failed at once. Lights blew out, fuel lines ripped. Racks of drone frames fell sideways and slid into collapsing floors. A reinforced wall cracked open, sending sparks and debris everywhere. No one inside had time to reach a door. The whole underground chamber began folding in on itself. At that same moment, the F-35Cs made their attack run. They fired their JASSM-ER missiles from low altitude, and each one streaked toward fuel storage tanks and assembly bays. Fire rolled across the surface in bright waves as explosions tore open the remaining structures. "Good hits," one pilot said as alarms flickered on his display from Venezuelan jammers trying to interfere. The MQ-25 drones were still doing their job. One Stingray flew a perfect decoy pattern, pulling 4 SAM missiles away from the strike team before it disappeared from the screen. "Ghost 5 is gone," the drone operator reported quietly, knowing the drone had just saved the jets from a kill shot. Tomahawks hit next. They slammed into uplink towers, generator buildings, and the AI testing room. Concrete panels flipped upward as the last intact structures were torn apart. Dust clouds rolled outward like waves. Then everything went still. For almost a full minute, no one spoke inside the strike group's command center. All eyes stayed on the satellite feed. Finally, the bunker roof sank inward, the remaining walls collapsing into a smoking crater. "Target cold," a voice said over the B-21 channel. "No surviving systems detected." The mission's most dangerous moment had passed. But for everyone watching, one thing was clear. This strike rewrote the balance between the US and Venezuela. If you think this hit changed the entire conflict, press 1. If you believe Venezuela still has a move left on the board, press 9 and share your view. By 6:47 a.m., 2 CH-53E helicopters were already lifting off from the edge of the strike zone, carrying the Marine team that had recovered the last pieces of the destroyed neural chips. What they brought back were only fragments, burned and twisted, but enough to confirm that no usable technology had been left behind. The team leader sent a short message to command. All sensitive material accounted for, nothing recoverable. Across the US strike group, updated intelligence began to roll in. Secreta 9 was gone. 31 long-range Venezuelan drones were confirmed destroyed. The satellite images showed nothing but a wide, smoking crater where the underground base once stood. The control network tied to the bunker had gone silent. No signals, no movement, no signs of backup systems firing up. For a site once believed to be one of Venezuela's most secure assets, it had been erased in a single coordinated blow. In Washington, no public statement was given. The Pentagon did not speak. The State Department said nothing. The silence was part of the message. The US had answered force with force, and it had done so without announcing a single threat beforehand. Venezuela, for its part, stayed quiet for hours before releasing a short line calling the explosion a technical accident during a training sequence. No one accepted that explanation. Around the world, allies and analysts reacted quickly. Officials in the Gulf states quietly signaled support. NATO observers said the strike was controlled, precise, and limited only to the source of the attack. Others pointed out that the mission showed how vulnerable any country becomes when it relies on underground command sites and drone networks that can be traced through digital signatures. But one lesson stood out above all the others. A strike on an American logistics nerve would be met instantly and without hesitation. The attack on Flying Bravo was meant to test American resolve. Instead, it exposed Venezuela's hidden infrastructure and removed it in less than 3 hours. What happens next will depend on how far Venezuela wants to push this confrontation. Their drone network is damaged, their bunker is gone, but the tension in the region is still rising. The next move is theirs. and it may decide whether this stays a shadow conflict or becomes something much larger. As we close this report, tell me where you stand. Press 1 if you believe the US just restored the balance. Press 9 if you think Venezuela is preparing its next move. Your view helps us follow this story as it unfolds.